Guess you don't count. That's what my sister said. Not in so many words, but it was screamed in the action when the seating chart put me outside by the trash cans. The hallway smelled like lilies and bleach, an industrial, sterile smell that was the perfect contrast to the opulent, flowery nightmare happening just feet away. I could hear the DJ inside counting down to the first dance, a fanfare for my sister, Leia, the golden girl. My mother adjusted her poles, her face carefully blank, a mask of denial. My father looked away, a classic move, his silent endorsement of my erasure. I tightened my grip on the small, silver gift I'd wrapped the night before, the one that held the whole truth. I smoothed my wine-colored dress, the color of silent rage, and chose silence. No argument, no tears, no scene. I stood up and walked out into the sharp Vermont air. 5 minutes later, the chandeliers inside the ballroom went quiet, and a scream, a raw, ugly scream, cut the room in half. That's what happened next. The air smelled like pine and money, a signature scent of a lakeside resort Leia had chosen. The glass ballroom, overlooking the water, was strung with orchids and candles floating in crystal bowls. Every table inside shimmered under the chandeliers, a perfect, expensive dream. Mine, apparently, was out by the service doors. I had driven 3 hours from Boston, the whole way replaying my mother's last text in my head. Please, Amber, no drama today. It's Leia's day. That was my entire identity in this family, an instruction, a warning label. Don't make noise, don't take space, don't remind anyone that there's another daughter. I found the coordinator with her clipboard. "You're Miss Hayes?" she asked. I confirmed it, and her polite smile faltered when she found my name. "You're listed for hallway seating," she mumbled. I actually laughed, waiting for the punchline, waiting for her to correct the mistake. She didn't. She simply directed me to the small folding table by the trash cans. From there, I could see the entire ballroom, every sparkle, every laugh, but a literal, marble and glass wall stood between us. I set my small, silver gift down and stared through the glass. Leia was raising her glass for a photo, Mom adjusting her veil. I sat in the cold draft and told myself the lie I'd been telling for years. It's fine. You don't need them. Growing up, we were the cliché you see in bad family portraits. Leia was the golden child, and I was the quiet one, the shadow. Leia had ribbons and trophies. I had report cards no one looked at. She'd cry and immediately get rescued. I'd fix my own problems and get ignored. My mother called me the easy one. My father called me independent. They were just synonyms for invisible. And for a long time, invisibility was convenient. It was a shield. The last time I saw them all together was Thanksgiving 3 years ago. The house smelled like burnt pie crust and lemon cleaner. Leia was in Portugal with a boyfriend, and for once, the air felt light. My mother asked me to grab an old photo album from her vanity drawer. Instead, I found her small, brown journal, its edges soft from years of use. Curious, I flipped through it. The pages started the same way. Leia's first day of kindergarten. Leia's favorite meal. Leia's college acceptance. Not a single line about me. Not my birthdays. Not my name. Nothing. When I asked her why, Mom smiled like it was the silliest question in the world. You never needed the attention, honey. You were always fine. That night, I learned there are 2 kinds of forgotten, being lost and being deliberately erased. I thought about that journal as I sat there in the cold draft of the hallway. I was an afterthought, a piece of logistical trash to be swept out of the way of the perfect picture. I tried to disappear into the background, like always, but the hallway was loud. Staff came and went, wheeling bins of melting ice, their laughter echoing. Every time the service door swung open, I caught flashes of the ballroom, dresses glittering, my mother's hand resting on Leia's shoulder like a crown of approval. The truth was solid and heavy in my chest. Maybe I didn't need them, but that didn't mean they had the right to treat me like I never existed. The constant traffic finally stopped, and the music swelled. I told myself I would simply endure it, sit there for an hour, make my appearance, and leave. But then the laughter shifted inside. I looked up and saw Leia walking toward me. Leia emerged from the shimmering ballroom, her veil trailing behind her like smoke, the white gown dazzling. She stopped just short of the doorway, Her reflection doubled in the glass. Two versions of her, one adored inside, one cruel outside. "Well," she said, tilting her head, her voice carrying that familiar, mocking lilt. "Looks like they finally figured out where you belong." I blinked, waiting for the expected apology or the excuse, the polite social vernet. "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked, my voice flat. She smiled that half-smile, the one I'd seen since childhood, the one she always wore right before stealing the spotlight. "Guess you don't count," she said. The words landed so softly, so casually, that I almost missed how truly sharp they were. "Guess you don't count." Like it was math. Like I was a miscalculation. Like I was a statistical error in the family equation. For a second, I said nothing. My throat went dry, the kind of dryness that comes from swallowing too much pride, too many years of frustration. Behind her, the photographer was calling, "Bride, we need you back in the shot." She didn't move. She wanted me to react, to cry, to beg, to finally prove her right. But I didn't. I just looked at her, long enough for her smile to twitch. "You know," I said quietly, finding my voice, steady and low. "There's always been space for both of us. You're the one who keeps shrinking it." Her eyes narrowed, the perfect bride facade momentarily cracking. "Oh, please, Amber. Not everything's about you. This is my day. You could at least pretend to be happy for once." I let out a small, quiet laugh, the kind that sounds like air escaping from a crack in a dam. "You made sure I couldn't even sit in the same room as you," I said. What exactly am I supposed to be celebrating? For a flicker, the mask slipped. I saw a ghost of fear in her eyes, a hint of vulnerability, before she straightened, lifting her chin with practiced arrogance. "You always twist things. Maybe Mom was right. You just make everything difficult." She threw the name Mom out like a weapon, knowing it would hurt. I pictured the brown notebook again, every page filled with her life and none of mine. "I'm not difficult," I said, my voice rising slightly. "You just never like that I see things the way they are." She rolled her eyes, a gesture of pew, dismissive boredom. "You sound just like Dad, pathetic and bitter. Face it, Amber, nobody needs your approval. Not here, not ever." She turned on her heel then, leaving a trail of expensive perfume and disdain, her white gown brushing the dirty service door. I watched her go, and the familiar burn behind my eyes returned, but this time it felt different. It didn't feel like the burn of tears. It felt cleaner, harder. When the door closed behind her, I picked up the small, silver box from the folding table. The gift I'd chosen the night before, wrapped with quiet, meticulous patience. I traced the ribbon once, a small, private ritual, then slipped the box into my bag. If they didn't want me inside, fine. But I wasn't leaving empty-handed. Not this time. I sat there for a while longer, my fingers pressed against the smooth edge of the box, listening to the muffled beat of the music. It was supposed to be their first dance, a perfect picture. I could imagine the scene, Mom wiping a tear, Dad clapping awkwardly, Leia basking in the applause, the same scene I'd watched my whole life from the edges. But edges cut. I stood up slowly, my reflection catching in the glass panel, still composed, still invisible. Inside my bag, the silver gift felt heavier than it should have. It wasn't just a present, it was proof. It was something that could shatter the image Leia had built out of years of lies. 3 weeks earlier, I'd run into one of Leia's old co-workers in Boston. It started as a harmless lunch, just catching up, but it quickly turned into a confession. The co-worker, feeling guilty and frankly disgusted, told me about Leia's months-long bragging. Leia had been boasting about marrying rich, about how easy it was to make Noah trust her. His sweet, Leia had told her, but naive. A few fake tears and I get the house, the money, the last name. The co-worker showed me the messages, screenshots, receipts, all printed in pale blue bubbles. Leia's texts joked about getting him to sign the prenup first, moving Mom and Dad into the guest house once she was settled, and how the house would be hers by Christmas. My coffee had gone cold at the time, the harmless luncheon instantly transforming into an intelligence briefing. I hadn't planned to use that information. I'd just kept the evidence, a grim secret tucked away on my hard drive. Until today, The gift itself was simple, a crystal picture frame, a traditional, meaningless wedding present. But tucked beneath the frame was a folded note and a printout of those damning messages. Not a threat, not a letter of warning, just the truth. Raw and undeniable. I walked back toward the main reception table near the ballroom entrance. The wedding planner was distracted, fussing over a centerpiece, her back to me. It was the perfect, silent window of opportunity. I slid the small, silver box among the pile of other wedding gifts, placing it deliberately on top of a stack labeled to Leah and Noah. My handwriting on the tag was neat, almost clinical. I stepped back, checked my reflection one last time, my dress still smooth, my composure intact, and turned toward the exit. I hadn't come for a seat. I had come for closure. I had come to give the truth a place at the table, even if I was banned from the room. The Vermont evening hit me with a rush of cold, pine-scented air. The lake shimmered under the ballroom lights, a dark, indifferent mirror. I could hear the faint, muffled echo of clapping behind me, the crowd cheering for a dance I no longer cared to watch. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel invisible. I felt steady, calm in a way that felt almost foreign. I reached the parking lot, the crunch of the gravel under my heels sounding like punctuation. No dramatic goodbye, no speech, no grand announcement, just the quiet closure of my car door. As I started the engine, I looked back once at the glowing windows, the silhouettes moving behind the glass, and whispered to myself, let the truth find its way. Inside the ballroom, the laughter still floated above the music. The saxophone player hit a soft, romantic note. Glasses clinked. Leah, the picture of perfection, was spinning once, twice, in Noah's arms. The camera flashes painted everything gold, a perfect, flawless, sealed snow globe of a scene. I drove slowly, watching the lights recede in my rearview mirror. The applause faded completely, replaced by the steady hum of my engine. I had done what I came to do. I was free. I was halfway down the winding road when the silence I had left behind was finally, violently broken. Even from that distance, muffled by the hills and the dark air, I heard it, the scream. The silver box was opened near the gift table. It happened spur of the moment. A cousin suggested, let's have them open one. A quick show for the guests. Leah, still flushed from the dance, tucked the ribbon free, laughing. The paper fell away, and the lid lifted. She saw the crystal frame and, beneath it, the folded note. Her hand hesitated. What's this? She said, a flicker of confusion crossing her face. Noah leaned over. The note slid loose and landed face up on the white linen table. His eyes caught the screenshots before Leah could snatch them. He frowned, scanning the text messages, the ones printed in pale blue bubbles. A sentence jumped out. He's so easy to handle. Cry a little and he buys anything I want. The music didn't stop right away. It just thinned. The violinist missed a beat, a sour note hanging in the air. Leah's fingers shook as she reached for the papers. This isn't. Someone's trying to. Noah didn't answer. He just kept reading, his face growing paler with every line. Page after page, Leah's own words mocked her, jokes about the prenup, plans for his family's property. The same smirk she'd given me in the hallway hours ago was now frozen on her face, brittle and wrong. Who sent this? She hissed, her voice low and dangerous. A bridesmaid whispered the name, Amber Hayes. Leah looked up, her expression a mix of terror and rage. My sister, she choked out. She did this. She's jealous. She's always been. The room had fallen into a thick, buzzing silence. Every face was turned toward the gift table. Leah's mother-in-law, Victoria, a tall, imposing woman who was used to authority, had been watching from across the room. She heard Leah blame me, and her expression hardened. She crossed the floor with the slow, deliberate certainty of a judge. I think you should read the rest before you blame anyone, Victoria said, her voice cutting through the silence like a shot of ice. These came to me this morning. Forwarded from a stylist you hired. Apparently, they were in the wrong thread. Leah's face drained of all color. That's not possible, she whispered. Noah's voice was low, shaking with a devastating realization. It's real, Leah. The dates match. He turned the final page, a photo of her text. "The house will be mine by Christmas." A collective gasp rippled through the guests. Phones came out, recording the slow-motion destruction of the perfect wedding. The photographer froze mid-shot. Leia lunged for the papers. "You can't show people that." Victoria calmly stepped between them. "You showed it yourself, sweetheart." That was when the screaming started. It wasn't loud at first, more like air leaving a body too fast. Leia stumbled back, the heavy train of her gown catching under her heel. "No, you don't understand. He's lying. My sister, she did this." Noah's jaw tightened. "Amber didn't write those messages," he said, his voice laced with the poison of betrayal. "She planted them. She's always—" "Stop," Victoria commanded. The single word cracked through the room. "You did this. You humiliated her today. And you thought no one would ever see who you really are." Every eye in the ballroom was locked on them. The DJ lowered the music until it was a single, distant drone. Leia's perfect day was dissolving, and she couldn't hold it together anymore. She spun toward her parents, who were standing pale and stiff near the head table. "Do something," she screamed. My mother, Maggie, her champagne glass trembling, could only stare at the chaos. My father looked at the floor, his lips pressed tight, silent for once. And for once, neither of them moved to defend her. "You knew," Noah said quietly, addressing Leia.